Welcome to Women Winning Divorce. I am your host, Heather Quick. I am an attorney, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Florida Women's Law Group, the only divorce firm for women by women. I love thinking big, thinking outside the box, creating creative solutions for women, and empowering women to win in all aspects of their life. Our approach at Florida Women's Law Group is to provide women with a strategy to not only achieve their objectives, but win at life. I believe that what may show up as adversity is simply an opportunity to change and improve your life. In each episode, I sit down with innovative professionals and leaders who are focused on how you can be your best self before, during, and after divorce. In these conversations, we are looking at how women can win at life. I have the unique opportunity to meet women when they are at a transition period of life. But that is only the beginning to becoming your best self and winning at life on your terms. With our guests, we enjoy the opportunity to explore ways all women can win and enhance their life, no matter where they are in their journey. Because divorce is just a point in life, not the end and not what defines you, rather a catalyst for your growth. Are you facing the challenges of divorce and feeling overwhelmed? Introducing Divorce 101, your essential online course designed to empower you through the divorce process. I'm Heather Quick, attorney and CEO at Florida Women's Law Group. Gain confidence and clarity with expert guidance on legalities, financial considerations, and your emotional well-being. We believe in empowering you to navigate this journey with strength and knowledge. Enroll in Divorce 101 today and take control of your future. As a valued podcast listener, you will get $100 off the course. So please see the show notes for the promo code and the link. You can also find out more at floridawomensLawGroup.com or always call us at 904-567-0121. Divorce for women by women. Welcome to this week's episode of Women Winning Divorce. I'm Heather Quick, owner and attorney at Florida Women's Law Group. Today, we have Lisa McGregor. Lisa is a personal and health coach based out of Sacramento, California. Lisa has spent almost all of her career in the health and wellness space and has had an interesting divorce journey herself. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is our pleasure. We are very excited to have you. Love bringing in guests from the other coast, so it's wonderful. We appreciate you giving our listeners your time today.
Absolutely. I'm really happy to be here and talk about this subject too.
Well, good. Well, and so we'll jump right in for our listeners. Would you share a little about your journey to where you are now professionally?
Okay, so I've always had a love for health and fitness. I was always that kid who was exercising, doing Denise Austin with my mom, choreographing dances with all my friends. I was always that kid. And so when I turned 18, I knew I wanted to be a fitness instructor and go into that field. So I got certified and started teaching fitness classes at the ripe age of 19 years old. And I actually did that all the way up until 2020. So nearly, when I retired from that, it was 18 years total. So it was a long time and it was a fun journey. In that time, I taught on the total West Coast, all the way from California, all the way up to Washington, with living different places, had my own fitness studio. And through the years, things have evolved a little bit. After I took a little break 2020, I went into looking into life coaching. So I got certified and started helping other women go through the divorce and co-parenting process, which was something that I went through in 2017. And so started doing a little bit of that and took a little bit of a pivot in, let's see, what was that? I'm all messed up on my years, 2023, and went back to school and did health coaching this time, which is very similar to life coaching, went back and got my health coaching certificate so I could understand the body in a different way.
Wow. Okay. Well, please do tell us. 'Cause I have so many questions, but we're going to get into it. But first, tell us a little bit about health coach because I really haven't heard much of that. Certainly not here on the East Coast. Not that it's not around, but I'd love to know a little bit more. Like what is that?
So it's becoming a lot more popular these days, which is really neat. A lot of people are looking into their health and looking at it in a different way instead of just, let's say, just going to your doctor and telling your doctor your symptoms. People want to dig a little bit deeper and they want a more holistic way of looking at things. And so a health coach, most health coaches, I should say, look into you as a whole person, not just looking at your symptom, but looking at the root of why that symptom is happening to begin with. So we take more of a proactive approach versus a reactive approach. So when someone comes to me and they say, for instance, I'm struggling with my sleep, I'm having a really hard time sleeping. Okay, well, let's look at your life and what's going on. What is your stress level like? What certain things are stressing you out in your life? What's your diet like? Do you have a lot of caffeine? Do you have a lot of sugar in your diet? What is your activity level like? What is your circadian rhythm even when you in the evening time? Are you staying up really late at night watching TV without your blue blockers on? Things like that are all going to affect the sleep versus just saying, okay, you're struggling with sleep. Here's some melatonin or here's a sleeping pill and just covering up and masking the symptom. We're digging a little bit deeper and finding out you as a whole.
Well, and I truly believe in that. I am one of those who just personally, anytime I've got a lot of stress or I've had a lot going on that is creating stress, it always manifests itself physically in my body. So I became a huge fan of Louise Hay and like her alchemy of healing and the symptoms. And so I'll go to that and like look at what my, psychological, like what is it that's causing that? And it gives me so much clarity. And I really find that once I recognize that, I do heal so much faster and understand more about what's going on with my body.
Absolutely, because everything is connected. And I think that that's one of the things that our generation has forgotten is how
Mhm.
simplistic and how our simplistic things can be and how everything is connected. So a lot of times we want to think it has to be so complex. I have to check all these boxes. I need to take this supplement and I need to take this medication. I need to do all these things in order to solve the problem when sometimes it could just be simply doing some kind of a breathing practice,
Right.
managing your stress, getting enough sleep. And we want to always push that stuff away and say, no, that's too simple. It can't be that easy. Actually, it can be. Your body is actually
Mhm.
pretty amazing and fascinating. And it just needs the right conditions in order to thrive and as it was meant to.
Well, now, obviously, this does tie well into divorce because it's extremely stressful. And sometimes, one of the most stressful things that a woman has gone through to date. And it really can, attack you in many different ways, certainly physically. But I do, before we tap into that, because that is a lot we can unpack, I would love it if you would share a little bit about your divorce journey, because I have a feeling that ties into a lot of why you're doing what you're doing now.
100%. It is. So I was married for 9 years and got divorced in 2017. And I'd say one of the hardest parts of that divorce process for me was learning how to become a co-parent. The co-parenting journey was
Mm.
absolutely the most stressful part for me. It was taking that identity that I had of a wife and a mother and what I believed a mother should be and trying to mold it into what it was and not looking at it
Mm.
in a shameful way. I had it in my mind that if I was not with my daughter 100% of the time, somehow I wasn't a whole woman or I wasn't a whole mother. And I really struggled with that. And I know that a lot of women really do. And so I really had to work on a lot of mindset things to help shift that and
Mhm.
get my mindset into a good place of realizing that it wasn't about the time on paper. It was about the quality time that I had my daughter. And it has been a winding journey since 2017. I went from 50%, if we want to go into percentages, I went from
Yeah.
50% to 20%, which really humbled me and got me to like really see what I was making that time mean. And now I actually have full custody. So it's interesting how it's been a winding journey through the whole process. But I've learned a lot about myself through it, both from like a spiritual standpoint and just uh, again, looking deeper into what I was making things mean. And I was able to work myself through that. But then from the health perspective side, long after the dust had settled, my body hadn't forgotten because I hadn't managed that stress through effectively and had
Right.
worked myself through that. Yes, I did from the mindset standpoint, but everything, as we talked about, is interconnected. And our emotions, if we don't fully process them, will manifest inside of our body and will end up manifesting other things inside the body, stress related. And that's what happened to me.
Wow. And how long did it take you to really recognize and make some changes on that stress, like in how it was affecting you?
Yeah. So as I was approaching 40, which I'm turning 40 this month, it's a big deal. In a few weeks, it's going
Congratulations.
to be. I was noticing that I was having some weight loss resistance. I was also struggling with like major fatigue, not
Right.
necessarily sleep problems, but fatigue during the day. Nothing I was doing seemed to be working. And I was starting to fall for the belief of, oh, it's because I'm almost 40. That's just what happens when you
Uh,
age. And as I started diving a little bit deeper into this, I realized it's not about that. That's like a belief and that's a thought error. No, 40 is just the beginning in a lot of ways, but there was something else going on. And
mhm.
interestingly enough, through my career, I ended up uh, in this chiropractic office doing the health coaching and learning a lot about chronic stress, the HPA axis, and how that works throughout your body. And uh, and I got myself tested, and turns out I am in adrenal fatigue. So I've been able to heal myself through that. And now I'm noticing how so many other women who have gone through a very stressful divorce, even after the dust has settled, let's say the worst has passed them, they're like, why am I still like having all these health issues? And my
Right.
divorce was like 5 years ago. It's because your body hasn't forgotten.
Yeah, it's right. It doesn't. And in a lot of ways, my experience that sounds, similar to yours, right? Like sometimes the personal growth, the mindset, we get there faster, but our body has to catch up because our body's like, whoa, all these crazy ideas, or, your mind may be expanding, but sometimes your body's not quite ready to let go of whatever tension, stress.
Yeah.
And it just takes longer in understanding that, you need to give your body time and allow it to heal as well as your brain.
Absolutely. And I didn't really come across a lot of these stress management techniques and all of these lifestyle techniques, all of those things until probably about 2 years ago. I started really looking
Okay.
into it a little bit deeper. And so when I was going through it, I didn't have all those tools available to me. I came from the health and fitness world, which is exercise and eat right, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Not all this other stuff where I'm like, I wish I would have had these tools available to me. I wish I could have listened to a meditation outside of the courtroom. I wish I
Hmm.
could have done all of those things. And so now I'm recognizing that and uh, knowing that whatever kind of stressful situation were to come up in the future, now I have all these tools available to me where it doesn't mean the stress isn't going to happen, because it is. We're human beings. We live in this world. It's going to be stressful. But what we do have power over is being able to be resilient to it. What tools do I have where I can be resilient to that stress so I don't allow it to overtake me?
That is so smart. Now, let's talk a little bit about chronic stress. Like, how do you know if you have this? I think that's a good place to start, because a lot of people might think they do, and they might, or a lot of people may not even realize.
Yeah. So with chronic stress, that's like the constant state of fight or flight, right? Your body is like trapped in that. It thinks that it's running from the lion or running from like the tiger, which is what ancestrally our bodies were, that's what we used to deal with, right?
Right.
And so our body produces high amounts of cortisol to be able to run from that tiger. Our body is actually very intelligent, and cortisol and stress are not necessarily a bad thing. They're a good thing. A lot of times it gets a very bad rap. It's designed to be able to help us in that state where we need that extra push. You hear about women like lifting a car off their baby, and like those types of responses. That's the cortisol raising in your body, getting you ready to fight that battle. But what happens is that we stay stuck in that state of chronic stress. We never unplug from that. Our body is constantly thinking that it's running from that, and it never recovers. Because we're like, for instance, if you're going through a divorce and you're in this stressful state, let's say you went to court, then you go home and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I can't believe this happened. And then you're constantly dealing with it, maybe work stresses, kid stress, and your body never shuts off. And that cortisol never ends up coming back down. You're constantly in that state.
Now, and you mentioned this, which I didn't dig deeper, but like, when you were working, where you're working now and with the chiropractor, but I think you said you got tested, because that's what I was going to ask. You got tested. Is this like blood work to understand where your levels are? What should somebody do if they feel like, okay, this could be me?
Yeah, well, first of all, looking at all your symptoms. So with talking about that chronic stress, some of the symptoms could be extreme fatigue. So you can get a lot of sleep the night before and you wake up and you're just dragging. You need coffee to get you throughout your day. Let's say you also have the weight loss resistance like me. I was doing all the things that I knew how to do from my past. I'm like, exercise, I eat right. What is going on? Why is my body not responding? Again, it's your body's intelligence. Your body is designed to protect you. So oftentimes when we face the weight loss resistance, when we are stuck in that fight or flight, your body thinks it needs that extra fat for energy. It wants to store it there to be able to protect you so you can run, so you can have the energy to do that. But us and our human bodies are going, no, I don't need that extra weight around my stomach. I don't need that. And I want to have more energy. Maybe you're not sleeping throughout the night and you're being told by your doctor that, oh, you just need to take this sleeping pill, or you get brushed off. And then that's what happens a lot of times is people will run to their doctor and the whole adrenal fatigue and chronic stress is brushed off as that's something that's not recognized, and it's very real. And so with the test that we do a saliva test. So we have people come into the office and they do a saliva test that measures their cortisol 4 times throughout the day. So as soon as you wake up, middle of the day, afternoon, and evening. And what we're looking for is to see how your levels are throughout the day. A normal level is you wake up with a high amount, your highest amount. That's what gets you going throughout the day. Again, cortisol doesn't have to be a bad thing. Stress doesn't have to be bad. It gets you going. And then throughout the day, it should slowly taper off, lowest right before bed, so that way you're ready to sleep. And so we're looking and measuring that. And if you are in adrenal fatigue, you're going to notice that it's bottomed out throughout the whole day. You don't have any left.
And that's why you feel like I've got nothing left to give and I don't want to get out of bed, or I got it, but like you just don't feel normal, or like you hardly have that energy.
Yes.
Now, okay, so there are all over social media, we've seen the adrenal cocktail recipes. Do they really work? Like, or please like explain that to me and our listeners, because I have very limited understanding of it. So I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. From what I understand, I've not taken any of those cocktails myself, so I can't say personally from experience. I'm sure that they have a lot of herbal things in them that will definitely help. But even when we're working with people in our office, we aren't focusing so much on the supplements. Yes, there is a supplement protocol that can help, but I always say that's 20% of the equation. 80% of the equation is the lifestyle. And sometimes that's hard for people to wrap their heads around. In fact, I had a woman
Yeah.
in and she was like, I just want the pills. I just want the supplements and that's it. I'm like, well, that's not how this works because I'm
Mhm.
setting you up for failure if we're just going to give you just the supplements. We got to get the lifestyle piece down. Kind of like we addressed your sleeping patterns, your exercise, what kind of foods you're eating, how you, what types of toxins you're being exposed to, your stress management. Those are the things that are going to set you up for success so you can get your body truly out of it. And most importantly, so you don't fall back into it again. So with that,
And yeah, I guess,
the
and it's
cocktail
learning, like you're learning what's working for you, but also to avoid that again, because it's going to take some work probably to get yourself back. Well, I guess I'm just assuming that. I don't know, because I mean, you did say our bodies are smart and everything. So let's say, all right, I start doing meditation, going to yoga. How soon? Yeah, I know it's not for everybody, but typically, if you really are doing these types of practices, how long does it take your body to rebound, would you say?
what we usually see is between like 4 and 6 months, but it's really hard to really put a
Yeah.
date on it because it's really going to depend on how where that person is in their journey, how well they can start adapting these lifestyle pieces, and that's going to be a huge determining factor. So some people might be able to get themselves out of it in a month by adopting these lifestyle patterns. There's a lot of things that are out there like subconscious reprogramming, which is really huge, using other modalities like meditations. Those types of things can really make a huge difference. And again, us talking about how simplistic things can be, oftentimes we brush that stuff off and then we're like, I don't have time for the meditation. I don't have time for the yoga. Just give me the pills and the supplements and I want to be done. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. If we don't have time for meditation, it actually means you need to have double the amount of time of meditation because we've got to really learn how to slow down. And that's actually the biggest piece that most of us want to brush off and pretend that doesn't matter. It really does.
Right. Now, so let's talk about your coaching side of this, because that's what's interesting to me that probably can help someone implement these things that are change, right? They're not a habit. They're not anything maybe that you've had exposure to. So how, when you begin to function in that area as a health coach so let's say for a woman who, has been experienced stress with the divorce, how do you function in that role to help her?
So, with a health coach and a life coach, what we're there for is to help keep them accountable to whatever their goal outcome is, and then also to provide support along the way. And so that support can be lots of different things, helping you stay accountable to what you say you're going to do, if that's exercise, eating right, um, but the biggest piece is the thought pattern part, which also goes
Mm.
into like the spirituality side of things. And so when I was doing primarily life coaching, we'd really be focusing on how our thoughts truly create our reality. And so if we have like a thought pattern of my life is over because of my divorce and I have to start all over again. Well, what is that thought right there? What kind of emotion is that producing? So producing
Mhm.
emotion most likely of defeat, of despair, and what ends up happening from your actions. The actions you take are woe is me, you don't really move forward with your life, and that ends up being your reality. But if we take that thought pattern and we say, what about if this is a new beginning? What if this is an opportunity to start all over again and build back even better? The emotion ends up becoming an emotion of empowerment, of excitement. And then the actions that you take, maybe you go out and you apply for that new job. Maybe you end up going out and doing some online dating. And then the result that you get is this new opportunity instead of this obstacle and this viewpoint of that my life is over. It's actually a new beginning, and you begin to be really excited about it. And so that's what I would do primarily when I was doing life coaching. But now with integrating the health coaching too, I'm seeing it from a much broader perspective of not only the thought pattern side of it, but like what's actually going on underneath the hood too, and going on a deeper level.
That, yeah, and that makes so much sense. And it's just, I'm certain so helpful for women, right? To walk alongside of them, and particularly if it's something new, right? Because for a lot of folks, once they get to that point, they're willing to try anything, and they're like, okay, this is new to me. I haven't done meditation or breath work or mindfulness. I need help and need to be held accountable for that. So I can imagine that really helps them achieve their goals.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, you shared when you shared your divorce journey, and the biggest problem was the change, right, of your time with your daughter, and which that's big. And it sounds like those were some big changes, right? 100% to 50%, and then to 10, and now back to 100. But even, I would venture to say, which there was a lot of things intervening, causing those changes, even the change back, that probably impacted your stress levels considerably.
Oh, yes, definitely. All of those changes, of course, were done in court. So for instance, this last year have been to court 7 times in the last year.
Wow.
But the biggest difference, I would say, this time around versus when I originally went 7 years ago is now I know how to regulate my emotions and how to prepare myself and not allow that stress to take over when I'm appearing on court and when I'm having to go through this. And so that's made such a huge difference. In the beginning, I was unhinged. I would go in, when I'd be wearing my Apple Watch, it would be like giving me a notification saying your heart rate's really high. And I'm like, I know, but how do I come down from it? And I would just be a nervous mess. I'd come out of the courtroom and my emotions were all over the place. I'd be crying. I would be unhinged. But over the years, as far as adapting some of these lifestyle changes, these mindset shifts, and now especially meditation before I go in is so huge. So one of the things that I did this last time around is listening to a meditation right outside of the courtroom prior to going in. And it was just something very simple as far as you've done everything that you can do. You're completely prepared. And the outcome is going to be the outcome that's the highest good for everybody involved. And I think that is the biggest piece, because oftentimes when we're going into court, it's like, I hope it goes my way. I want it to go my way. And even this last time around when I've been going, I just kept saying to God, for me, it could be universe for you, I just want the highest good for my daughter. I don't care how this shakes out. I just want her safe, and I want the highest and best outcome for everybody. And that's what I went in with. And that helps you to be also really detached from the outcome, instead of saying it has to go this one way or I'm not going to be happy. Instead of just going in and saying, I just want the highest good for everybody.
That is, not knowing you from before, but just hearing that is, an amazing amount of growth. And I love that you're looking at the outcome as the highest good for your daughter, because very often, and we, the show's called Women Winning Divorce, and I do talk about winning with, achieving your objectives. But one of those objectives can be the highest good, even if you don't know what that is going to be.
Yeah.
It may give you more of an opportunity to feel as though you've won, your family has won, if that result is reached as the highest good for the children. And that might make that easier to, I would think, understand, absorb, implement.
Absolutely. And one of the things and the biggest lessons that I've had to learn through my divorce, and then I would say also through my spiritual journey too, is learning that and really accepting that the
Mhm.
universe and God has your highest good always. And I truly believe that even when we had, where my daughter decided to go live with her dad a few years ago, and I had about 20%
Mm.
custody. And again, it's like I had to really wrap my mind around what I was making that time mean. I was so
Yeah.
hung up on this 20%, and I was tying my identity to that and saying, oh, well, I'm only 20% mom, or I'm not good enough, or this isn't the way it should be, so therefore I'm not worthy enough. And I think that the universe truly put me in that situation so I could work that stuff out. It was like, no, 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 you're going to sit here and I'm going to force you to become real with what you're making all this mean, and seeing that you are 100% worthy as a woman, as a child of God, of just, and especially as a mother, that you're completely worthy. You don't have to be tied to this percentage or whatever you're making that mean. And once I grasped that, I ended up finding myself back in court, and ironically ended up getting 100% custody, and she's with me full time now. But I think that I really had to be slowed down and to
Mhm.
on myself, both with those thoughts, and then also this whole journey that I've been through also physically. I needed that time to heal both of those things. And so I look at life now as the bigger picture, as far as you're never being punished, and you're never being like led to worse. If you step back and you look at it from like a bird's eye view, you can see that everything has always been working together for good, and you're never being punished.
And that now was the percentage of time, was that the root of your main struggles throughout your divorce, or was there anything else that contributed to that, do you think?
Well, that was what the problem was on the surface, yes, and I definitely worked through a lot of that. But as I continued to also work through a lot of my own childhood things and doing a lot of uh, childhood work, I realized that it actually rooted back to not feeling worthy in my childhood. And I had to work through a
Mm.
lot of that stuff too, and realize like where that actually was coming from, and what I was making it mean when it came to being a mother in this time. So it was, I look at this whole journey at the time, I was so upset and frustrated. Like, how could God do this to me? How could I be in this position? And really seeing myself as a victim. And then
Mm.
looking back and stepping back and saying, no, this was all like God knew what he was doing. He put me in this position to work
Yeah.
on me and to force me to get real with all that stuff. And now look where I'm at. And it's really great to see that. And now I can apply that perspective to other challenges that I might face in my life, that I'm never being led to worse. I'm always being led to better. You just might have some obstacles and some lessons to learn along the way that might be hard and painful in the moment, but they're always leading you to a better outcome.
Absolutely. Now, okay, you have gained quite the TikTok following by sharing tips and stories. Can you share a little about that with our listeners, as
Yeah,
far as
absolutely.
what you've shared, and how that is evolved?
So I actually started that TikTok right after I found out that my daughter was going to be going to live with her dad for a little while. And I
Mhm.
was really struggling. And that was so therapeutic for me to go on there and share some of the things that I had learned up until that point, but then also what I was going through in the moment. So I started that in 2021, I believe, or 2020. I can't even remember. I get so lost on the years. Time flies by. I'm like, how am I even going to be 40 this month? I don't know. But I started that then, and it quickly grew when I really started sharing my story and just being authentic and just being real.
Yeah.
And the biggest part was not so much my baby daddy's a jerk and doing that. I wasn't about that, because I was far enough in my spiritual journey and this whole process to know that that was not going to get me further ahead of doing that. That's not part of moving ahead. So I was really about looking at things from a broader view and helping people work through moving forward, not looking and staying in the past.
And that is a challenge. So I commend you for that, because, and also from, the lawyer's perspective, that was definitely, if you were going to go on any kind of platform about this story, just being authentic in your story and not anything negative regarding your daughter's father, that was definitely the right way to go as far as the court system, because that can happen often with our listeners. And it's like, when you are bad mouthing them, disparaging them, it just never looks good on you, because that's your child's father.
Yes, from that too. And then going back to even the spiritual perspective and how it ties into our body also. Your body doesn't know the difference between whether you're talking about yourself or someone else. So when you're sitting there and bad-mouthing someone else and you're in this state of anger, you're actually punishing your body and putting your body into the state of stress. And so that's why I liked the topic of this episode, which is my chronic stress caused by my divorce?
Mhm.
When we're going through this, we might be so mad at our ex, or we might be so mad, but do you realize that that anger is actually destroying your body, because you're putting your body into this chronic state of stress? And so when you start to look at it that way, it kind of is more empowering and actually might fire you up more and be like, oh, heck no, I am not going to allow my ex
Yeah.
to destroy my physical health because I'm so angry. So I have to go back and I need to look at things from a different perspective, learn how to manage my stress, and not allow that person to have that power over me and my body, because I'm going to pay for it later if I can't get real with that.
And I think that's a great point, that all of that anger, right? And all of that you have potentially, towards your ex or in the proceedings, your body doesn't know the difference. That's pretty amazing. I never really heard that at all. I mean, I know it takes a lot more energy to have so much negativity, but that your body really is looking at you, towards yourself. That can really make it dangerous. I worry about so many of our clients. They move through the emotions, as, obviously everyone does, just like the cycle of grief, and divorce is very, very much the death of a relationship. And, they do move from sadness to anger. And I have said before, and I'm going to maybe take this back now. I've said, anger is much more productive, and meaning sometimes that sadness is, especially when it's linked to being a victim, is I have found, and I'd love your opinion, that, our client, it's just hard for them to take action. It's very hard to make a decision because of the sadness. How about you? Have you had experience with that, or with any of your clients?
Absolutely. So when it comes to anger, we got to acknowledge it. It's coming up, and it's coming up for a reason, and we need to move it through our body so that way it doesn't manifest inside of our body and turn into chronic stress. And so when I've been working with people in the past, just from the life coaching perspective, we would do anger exercises, and that's actually really fun. Whether you are doing it towards your ex or your boss or whatever the situation may be, it's actually very therapeutic. And so there's different anger exercises you can do. There's one that I walk people through where we're punching a pillow and we're actually physically moving that energy out of our body. moving it through. And, or there's one where we tap on the chest and we do some tapping exercises
Tapping.
to help move and break up that anger outside of our body and move it out. And so that's the biggest thing, is acknowledging it. We don't have to have shame for feeling that. It's totally normal. It's part of the process. It's part of being a human. To say you don't have any anger or anything like that is a lie. You need to, but the biggest part is, are we going to hold on to it? So that's where we have a choice. We have a choice where we can move it through our body and do it in a fun way. I mean, shoot, I had a great time like punching a pillow. It was actually very, very therapeutic for me. But then I have a choice after I get that out. How am I going to respond now? What is my new story now that I moved that through? Not to say it's not going to come back, but that's a tool that we have in our toolbox to be able to know when that comes up, how am I going to handle it? And then how am I going to switch that thought then? And how am I going to move forward?
Now, I like that because, and I, just for our listeners, this is like my understanding of this, but it's true. And we all, and by having a story, it's not that it's false or anything, but we all have our stories that we tell ourselves, we tell others about certain experiences, right? And, as you're divorced, like, what is your divorce story? How do you help somebody come up with a new story? And a new, and I don't know if this is the right word, so please correct me, like a new perception of that experience. How do you help women with that? Because I really think that's challenging.
Absolutely. So moving through the most raw part of it, oftentimes if we're really stuck in a very, very bad place, that is where I really believe having a therapist walk through that with you in the really, really raw parts is really best. Okay. When I usually come in is when people are like, okay, I'm ready to move forward, but I don't quite know how. That's where I really step in, because it's like, okay, great. Now we're really ready to want to look towards the future and create. That doesn't mean some things won't come up, but we can look forward to the future. So part of it is accepting and blessing and releasing the past. If you have children, there was good that came out of that. You got your children that came out of that divorce. So to say that, oh, I made a mistake, I married the wrong person, we have to let go of that story. You got children out of it. And even if, whether you did or you didn't, what is the lesson there? What did you learn from that? So a lot of times people will say the word narcissist gets thrown out a lot these days. I married a narcissist. Okay, so maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't.
Right.
But what's the lesson here? How can you identify that behavior now in a new relationship? So what are the things that maybe attracted you to that narcissistic person? Are you more of a people pleaser? Do you have no boundaries in your life? Are you, those are the types of things of like kind of taking some accountability also and saying, what are some of the things that maybe I contributed to this? And that was one of the biggest parts of like my divorce too, was saying, okay, when I met my ex, I was 20 years old. I didn't know anything about life at all. But it was a learning process. And so we can take a look at that and be like, great, if that's truly what happened, how can I prevent it from happening again? What are some things that I need to work on within myself to then attract, a different personality or a different person? And then looking at the beauty of your children. You got beautiful children out of that marriage. So that's a thing you can look at and bless and release. Okay, great. So those are things from the past. Now, what do we want to create going forward? What are the things that you want to imagine for your future? And don't think that they're impossible. I want you to dream big. Do you want to live in this like beautiful house with a man that loves you and have more children, possibly? All of those things. Sometimes our mind wants to go, well, that's not possible. Well, what if it was? What would that look like? And getting to them to walk through the emotion of and the excitement of like, what if that were to be true? What are the steps that I could take? What are the thought patterns that I would actually have to change in order to get there?
And then that's, I would imagine, where the work really begins, right? Once you allow yourself to dream and imagine what you do want. And I love that. So now, like you said, what now has to change? How do I adapt to create that? How do I become that person who can receive that?
Exactly. Because I always say, like, there's the certification that I went through was the model. So
Mhm.
what it is basically is like your thoughts create your emotions, and your emotions create your actions, and your actions create your reality. And so if we reverse engineer that and really kind of start to peel that apart, okay, if we do want to get remarried and have a man that loves us and maybe live in this beautiful house and have more children, what is the emotion that brings up if that were to be possible? Are you like really excited
Mm.
about that? Does that get you like in this really excited state? Okay, well, what are like the thoughts that we have to think in order to get us into that? That it's a possibility, and like opening our mind to that. And so if we start with the thought of that's impossible, I'm too old, my life is over, all of those things, that we actually think we're going to achieve that reality. No, we're not, because we're not going to take the actions that are going to get us there because we're so stuck in this old thought pattern. And so that's where I get to come along and walk people through that, whether that's looking forward after a divorce, whether that's with their health, whether it's with anything, uh, that same progression works really in anything. You can plug it in to anything. You could plug it into a career,
Mhm.
into really anything.
Yeah, that's a great exercise, and just, yeah, reverse engineer that. And it makes so much sense, right? So it's just, but you got to go through the exercise, which I can imagine is easier with someone like you, right? With a coach to kind of walk you through that and explain it the way you just did to me, and why it makes sense to reframe the way maybe you think about this and really look at those emotions, to then, how are you going to act? What actions will you take? I love it. I do.
Yeah. And that's really ties into even what we were talking about earlier, like with our bodies and the chronic state of stress, because everything is connected. And
Mhm.
so when we're looking at this, it's like we're looking at mindset, which is so huge. That's such a huge part of it. We're looking at what your nutrition level is like. We're looking at your exercise. We're looking at your exposure to toxins. We're looking at all those things, because all of those things go into our body's ability to thrive and heal from the inside out, both mentally, both physically. Everything is connected. And so that
Mhm.
is the more broader perspective on coaching that I have. Whereas before I was doing more of the coaching of just the mindset. Now it's much more broader because I'm realizing how everything is connected.
Well, and what a difference you can make now, like really broadening that as all of the parts that work together so that you can really help your clients achieve their ultimate objectives.
Yes.
Well, we are almost out of time, but before we go, Lisa, can you impart on our listeners what you've learned about women and their resilience throughout your career?
Absolutely. That we are incredible. Not only was your body designed to thrive and to heal, both physically and mentally, realizing that and having that thought and really truly believing that is such an empowering thought. And then also that life is always working out for you. I know it may not feel like it in the moment, but all the things that I've been through in my 40 years of life so far, I can honestly say that every single challenge that I've been faced with has always come with a lesson and launching me into something better. So if you're in the thick of it right now and you're like, how could I possibly get through this? How could there possibly be light on the other side of it? Hang on. You're going through it, and there will be light again, and it is leading you to better.
I love that. I love that. And lastly, Lisa, where can our listeners find you for more information and resources?
Yes. So on Instagram is the best place to find me, and it's really simple, lisamcgregor.ig.
Love it. Love it. Well, we will also have those links in our show notes as well. And we've reached the end of our show today. Thank you so much, Lisa McGregor, for joining us today to discuss health, wellness, time sharing, and much more.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And listeners, if you or someone you know is going through a divorce or is thinking about a divorce, in the Northeast Florida area, please reach out to us at floridawomensLawGroup.com or join our Facebook group, Women Winning Divorce, where we have created a community of women and have positive and supportive conversations. You'll find the links in the episode description. And if you've enjoyed this show, we'd truly appreciate a 5-star review to help other women going through similar challenges find us and our content. We value your feedback, so please share your thoughts on today's episode. Our email is in the description as well. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Women Winning Divorce. My goal is to elevate your life and the way you are thinking so that you are best equipped to win at life. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so you automatically get my new shows every week. And I would love to hear from you personally. Come join the conversation on social and join our Facebook group, Women Winning Divorce. We welcome your comments and suggestions. We want to bring you content that helps move your life forward. Women Winning Divorce is the place for an elevated conversation on how women can thrive during times of adversity in order to live their best life.